Welcome to this session on communities. The title is Reflecting on Current University Community Collaborations in Post-Disaster Environments. I want to welcome you and thank you for being here at this session. And the second thing I want to do is to invite the panelists to come forward to the table. We have Maria de Lourdes Lara from the University of Puerto Rico, Pablo Melendez, also from the University of Puerto Rico Medical Science Campus, Christopher Papadopoulos from the University of Puerto Rico Mayagüez, and Ruth Santiago, which is with Comité Diálogo Ambiental and El Puente de Williamsburg in Latino Climate Action Network. And as an introduction, basically communities are often perceived as blank canvas, passive recipients of aid and or laboratories in which no technologies can be tested. That's a common myth, basically. However, we have learned that communities have expert knowledge about their local landscapes, both physical and mostly social. Communities are agents of change that have visions of their own futures and are looking for collaborations with the university in their own terms. Some of you that have been in collaboration with communities know that if you go there thinking that you know everything and that you know the solution to their problems, you're going to hit a brick wall. Nobody will open their doors to you. So this panel will explore the lessons learned from community-university collaborations in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, in which respectful relationships between academia and communities were established. And I am delighted to tell you, the audience, that these panelists are experts in this field. They have been doing this for a long time. Our panelists will reflect on the following questions in general. What has been your experience in university community collaborations in general? What has been your experience in university community collaborations in the context of disasters? Can you mention at least one aspect and positive aspect and one negative aspect of the way in which university community collaborations currently happen? And finally, what should universities do differently in order to establish fair and effective collaborations with communities, either before, during, and or after a disaster? So we'll go through the list in order. So we'll start with Maria Lourdes.
Oh my God. I was expecting the person first coming. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me and all these colleagues for this extraordinary event. Thank you for coming to hear something from us. I want to express special gratitude and recognition to el Instituto Nacional de Energía y Sostenibilidad Isleña, MESI. Thank you to Marla, thank you to Cecilio, thank you to you, Lionel. Thank you, Carla, Jahaira, all the people that helped us to came here. As you know, their vision, work, and commitment guarantee that today we are here exchanging experiences and knowledges in RISE 2019, as the other president said. Well, I will read this brief presentation. One thing is because I'm a Spanish speaker, and it's better for me to read it in English as I write it. And to ensure to answer the questions that guide this first panel on the relationship between the university and the community in the context that follows disaster Hurricane Maria, and that was revealed to us as a great disaster. In my case, from the University of Puerto Rico at Humacao, the most devastated campus, but also this campus is located in the east part of Puerto Rico, that is the most devastated and impoverished region of Puerto Rico. So it's a double devastation experience. My collaborative university community experience began 25 years ago, in 1998, from a collaborative relationship between the municipality of Caguas, the Turabo University, and an educational service NGO that I founded in 1994, the PECOM. Lisa Sejo worked there. The goal at that time was to create the first professional certificate for community leaders in community socioeconomic development. This was because of the privatization process that starts in Puerto Rico in 1992, and because the mayor, Luis Miranda Marin, wanted to start a community-municipality collaboration to strengthen the personal, social, economic skills in the leaders in that municipality. I live and born and live there. And he was following the collaborative projects born in Salinas, Proyecto Puedes. That was part of that project. That initiated there in 1990. So this mayor wanted to replicate what Salinas was doing since 1990 when they get the Central Aguirre closed, the last Central Aguirre closed, and they started a big collaborative project between all sectors in Salinas that was replicated in Puerto Rico and in the U.S. was born in Salinas, and Tata was one of the leaders, Nelson Santos, many people there. So I worked there, I learned a lot there, and they were one of my mentors and teachers, these leaders from Salinas. So Willie Miranda told me, hey, I want to replicate what we were doing there in Salinas. In 2000, the UPR at Humacao hired me to offer courses and collaborate to create the first bachelor's degree BA program in participatory action research in the island. This year also, we design and celebrate the first National Public Policy Congress for Community Affairs to deliberate and propose solutions in different problems we faced as organization and as a society. In 2007, I have worked from the UPR and the Citizen Agenda Foundation with about 10 sectors in the island and in 10 different areas: education, economic, environment, etc. It is since this last relationship that we collaborate with INESI colleagues. Since this relationship, we have supported the work they do on sustainable energy issues for Puerto Rico. In the context of disaster from which I have the most experience, the second question, working in the university community relationship is the disaster of the extreme poverty of my country. This is a disaster we have been struggling with from many decades. A second, a more visible disaster was caused by hurricanes Irma and Maria. Both passed through the east part of Puerto Rico, and especially Maria swept away our institution, the whole UPR of Macau, and 16 municipalities we serve. So we have a double problem there, trying to protect our university and the students and our community and the thousands of people that were living there, families of our students. To address this situation, the collaboration we create from UPR at Humacao included other UPR campuses, all sectors of the region, private, public, municipal, NGOs, foundations of the whole region, all the people that came from the country, from the mainland, the diaspora, all the universities and NGOs that came to help us and came to Humacao, and countries as far as Israel. They came here, they came to Humacao to work with us in the post-traumatic stress crisis we faced that year. The strategy starts and included research we made 2 weeks after the hurricane came. We designed research to know what happened with the people we were working with. Capacity building programs and services to the entire UPR community, along with the NGOs and communities of the region. It was one that, in addition to focusing on achieving the physical survival of the community, food, water, energy, equipment, cultural activities, support in the rehabilitation of housing, referrals to complete studies outside the islands, a lot of them, among many others, for the university community and their families, the employees. We give special attention to the mental health of the UPR and the dozens of communities we serve throughout the 16 municipalities of this region. The focus of collaboration was to train our faculties in emotional competencies, intervention in post-traumatic stress crisis, because this was a crisis, and more than 5,000 citizens were served directly in the first 6 months post-hurricane, thanks to this community-university collaboration. A positive aspect of this collaboration was to demonstrate that we can transcend sectorial, political, and ideological differences to make a large and productive community, the Puerto Rican community. That extends beyond our borders and our limited visions about what it means to collaborate and transform practices. We managed to show that we could and that we can when we move to a transsectorial, transdisciplinary relationship, instead of working each group apart. That was Cecilia was saying this morning. A negative aspect was that after the hurricane winds stopped, the waters returned to the riverbed, and the electricity came to each house or building. Several practices of solidarity melted out or disappeared. It's terrible. Finally, for the question of what universities should and need to do differently in order to establish fair and effective collaboration with communities either before, during, or after disasters. I understand that we must create participatory plans to prevent and intervene collectively as a single unit when these disasters occur. We need to write down a transsectorial plan of what we experience as a country, from the practice to the design. We can and must do what has been lived and write it. Let's do it together. Now, that's why now, let's do it together now. That's why I'm here today, and that's what I aspire after we leave RISE 2009. I want to leave you with this Ubuntu symbol. The Ubuntu symbol, my older son designed for Agenda. The Ubuntu symbol we use to express our values, our ethic, and our practice with everyone we related with. We learned it from Nelson Mandela, and it's the way they used to live and survive together since thousands of years. I am because we are, soy porque somos. Humanity towards others means that too. The belief in universal bond of sharing that connects all humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria de Lourdes. We'll continue. I'm taking notes. I will try to summarize the comments which I understand are most important. Obviously, when we finish the particular comments, then we'll have a questions and answer session, and I'll try to modify my notes. Okay. So we'll continue with Pablo Menendez.
Thank you, Lionel. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Good morning. I'm very happy to be here, to be part of this panel, be sharing experiences with you guys as an audience, but also different experts in this table. I want to say thanks also to the organizing committee. I will not mention any names because I could forget someone, so I prefer not to mention any name. I have a couple of pages here that I will read, and then hopefully this will be something to open it for discussion after the talk. Some of them were already mentioned at the beginning this morning by the presidents, and some of them, they just miss it. And I'm speaking about the president of the University of Puerto Rico. So climate extreme events are of interest worldwide, given their potential for substantial impact on social, ecological, and technological systems. We are here today, in part, because of September 2017, Puerto Rico, but not only Puerto Rico, but also the US Virgin Islands. Sometimes we forget about them. So the Caribbean, including British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, St. Barth, a lot of different islands, suffered one of the most catastrophic hurricane seasons in recent history. And we are not alone in the Caribbean. Hurricane Maria struck the island, leaving catastrophic damage and high loss of life. We experienced excess mortality, but also government bureaucracy, government and institutional inexperience, major disruptions in all essential services, and multiple environmental health issues. All phases of disaster management collapsed at all levels. However, how this morning was mentioned by President Avilan Rodriguez, despite the wide devastation caused by Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico was in a very dire situation long before the hurricane struck the island. That is reality. And in some part, limiting our capacity to respond be prepared and to recover. As an example, on spring 2017, the government of Puerto Rico declared bankruptcy. And on top of that, the government of the United States imposed a financial board that now is making a decision for our world. And that bankruptcy is impacting all essential services. And something that it wasn't mentioned this morning, that is including millions of dollars and cutoff to the University of Puerto Rico, to the Department of Education, to the Department of Health and Security. Accordingly to the National Climate Assessment, the fourth, that was finished in 2018, and I was part of it as a co-author for the Caribbean, U.S. Caribbean region. High levels of exposure and sensitivity to risk in the U.S. Caribbean region are compounded by a low level of adaptive capacity, due in part to the high cost of mitigation and adaptation measures relative to the region's gross domestic product. In this context, extreme events coupled with this long history of marginalization, absence of climate actions, corruption that it wasn't mentioned this morning neither, the bankruptcy, political crisis, and lack of governmental support. This situation and factors catalyze actions to advance social transformation in our society, promoting an uprising in community-based organizations that have pursued sustainable development and resilience to extreme events. Some communities, not all of them, develop adaptive resilience as the result of the social learning process triggered by internal and external forces at the hurricane and internal forces at the bankruptcy and corruption. In some instances, adaptive resilience demonstrates transformability or the ability to perceive the post-disaster recovery and reconstruction processes as an opportunity to run forward instead of bouncing back where the community was before the crisis or the disaster. Before Hurricane Maria in 2017, San Juan, the capital of Puerto Rico, was dealing with many complex challenges. When we started a research project that it is called, still existing, UREX, is Urban Resilience to Extreme Weather Event Sustainability Research Network. We are more than 9 different cities working together, 6 from the United States and 3 of them from Latin America. Most of the challenges in San Juan at least are related with fiscal crisis, high unemployment, and we were coping also with severe droughts. Puerto Rico was already declared as a disaster zone area in 2015 and 2016. So talking about climate change, 2017 means that it was the 3rd consecutive year that Puerto Rico was declared as a disaster zone created by a weather-related event. The hurricane season of 2017 pushed some of us to work from theory to practice. So during the hurricane season, I quickly get involved in relief and recovery efforts impacting communities in the U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands, and also in Puerto Rico. On September 6, 2 weeks before Hurricane Maria, right 2 days after Hurricane Irma struck the Virgin Islands, we created a group of volunteers that we call the Puerto Rico Navy. Puerto Rico Navy was a group of volunteers, mainly sailors and boat owners. We made alliances with maritime transportation, with the U.S. Coast Guard, truckers, private marinas, hotels, car rentals, and in coordination with the emergency management offices, we're able to collect and distribute more than 18 trailers full of food, supplies, medicines, and construction materials in less than a week. We evacuated families that were requesting shelters and were needed for health assistance, and we moved them from one island to another in coordination with the different governments. On September 13, 2017, 7 days before Maria, the Environmental Health Department, where I work at the Medical Science Campus, lead and promote an alliance with Student Council. So the heroes, that's something that wasn't mentioned either by our presidents, the heroes in Puerto Rico were also the students and the faculty staff. It wasn't the administration. We didn't receive any support from the administration, from the institution. Anything. And they get on board a couple of months after the hearing. When they saw and when they recognized that the students were needed to assist them and to react at the situation that we're suffering in their neighborhoods. So we created an alliance with the Student Council from Rivera's campus and Medical Science campus. This was the first effort coming from the students and from the faculty staff also with Salubristas por Puerto Rico, Alianza Solidaria, Alianza de Médicos a Rescates, y Brigadas Salubristas. And we call it Universitarios Solidarios con el Caribe. It was the first group recognized by the University of Puerto Rico. Following this effort, I was invited in November to join Oxfam America first delegation of first responders from Puerto Rico to travel to Washington, D.C. to help educate key members of the Congress and their staff about the Puerto Rico emergency. 5 months after the emergency, we changed the strategy and we started working on transformative actions with communities. So the first 5 months, we were working more in response actions, and then we switched the strategy. Hundreds of initiatives, we need to acknowledge that a lot of different initiatives were born in Puerto Rico after the hurricane season. Most of them empowering communities to build sustainable futures. And we're very grateful that those initiatives were born because we received a lot of help from the states and from the international level also. We took this moment as an opportunity for reflection with practitioners, civic organizations, NGOs, foundations, and community leaders. So it wasn't the university alone. Most of these initiatives draw from principle of human-centered design. I'm a climate scientist, I'm not a sociologist, but I have been working on the climate impact on health and population, and have been working also with different communities. So we have designed this, it's not our, we have been using it for many years from the literature. Human-centered design is a problem-solving approach that starts with people impacted the most to the problem to be solved. So we're working directly with community residents to understand their needs. This initiative was centered on the engagement of residents in neighborhoods that were impacted by Hurricane Maria and are still recovering from the aftermath. Nowadays, I continue working in collaboration with different foundations, local and non-local universities, Arizona State University, Troy University, the New School of New York, many other institutions that I will, maybe I will forget names, but because of them, we have created this alliance. Many community-based organizations to provide long-term sustainable solutions and resources to community-based organizations in disadvantaged areas using a structured problem-solving participatory process, as mentioned by the colleague before. In most cases, culminating in sustainable action plans based on socio-ecological and technological systems and priorities for disaster risk reduction. However, in order to ensure that these transformative actions in communities are as successful as possible, these plans cannot address mitigation alone. They must show the way toward a full transformation of society in line with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and beyond, because we're almost there in the Agenda 2030. The communities in Puerto Rico have the potential to improve adaptation and mitigation actions by fostering stronger collaboration with universities on climate extreme events and disaster risk reduction. Universities like the University of Puerto Rico need to support efforts towards self-empowerment within neighborhoods, identifying and designing viable solutions to hurricane-related challenges specific to the local population. In this learning experience, some universities learned failures took place not just in the built infrastructure as energy or water system, but also in the information infrastructure that decision makers use to prepare and respond to an event of this magnitude. One big learning experience is that inefficient information and data system limit ability to learn, adapt, and reduce vulnerability of the population, various stress and shocks, including extreme events and weather. Just to conclude, the next year will be crucial to ensure that these efforts are inclusive of alternatives, transformative visions and perspectives, and most importantly, of the needs of the people and ecosystem that will be most vulnerable to future extreme events. Thank you.
We'll continue with Chris Papadopoulos in the next few minutes.
Could I come up to the podium and do it?
Sure.
Thank you. It's all yours. Good morning, muy buenos dias. I'm really glad to be here. I also like to thank all the organizers for the invitation. And my name is Christopher Papadopoulos. I'm in the Department of Engineering, Science, Materials, and Mining Whiz. And let me acknowledge my colleagues who are actually here in this room, Luisa Sejo, Natalia Ospina and Marcel Castro, and also Ricardo Lopez and Ismael Pagan. I think we have a very good overall set of faculty and students at our campus doing many, many great things. So let me tell you why I'm doing this actually. So it starts when I was in grad school, and I felt that I want to do things that I thought were socially and humanitarian in character, but I didn't get a lot of that from my formal education. And just to be a bit blunt about it, I didn't want to necessarily contribute directly to the so-called military-industrial complex, but I spent a lot of time debating in my head what that might mean. So let me say, in those days, I took my cues from peace and environmental activists. And here are some of the people that I was thinking about in those days. Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Roberto Clemente, also because I've been a fan of pirates for many years, cada vez que tienen la oportunidad de cambiar algo en este mundo y no lo hace, estás malgastando tu tiempo en esta tierra. And Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers says love is the root of everything. And we don't often talk about love. I might acknowledge that many of you might know there was a very sad event on Saturday in Puerto Rico. Vera Clemente, the widow of Roberto Clemente, passed away. So we just take one short minute or a few seconds to just remember their whole family. Because the whole family, in my experience, have been very magnanimous and generous, even acknowledging the family members of the pilot who died in the plane, and that pilot was a corrupt airplane operator. I think they've been a very magnanimous family in many ways. So I want to just offer our love and prayers to their family for just one second. Okay, so about experience, I'm going to bounce around a few things, both pre and post, because it kind of all mixes together. Before the hurricane, mostly in this case with Marcel and with the NSF project, we did some things in the village of Duschley, which is in the southwest peninsula. And just to go very quickly, we did some things about energy audits to maybe pre-plan electrical systems. We also sponsored some research projects, in particular one about using bamboo as a source of charcoal. And a master's student also at my was studying how a biosand filter works. So those were some of the early experiences going back from the early maybe 2010 to 2013 range. When Hurricane Matthew hit that region very directly, we joined this group in Puerto Rico called the Alianza Solidaria Puertorriqueña con Haití. And we learned many positive and negative things about what it means to try and accumulate resources and send them to another country. And one of the things I'll just say is that it's easier to get to Port-au-Prince from Miami or Chicago than it is from San Juan. But anyway, there's a few comments behind that. So more about this later, because I want to do some broad things instead of getting deep. I also want to acknowledge, especially with Dr. Luis Acejo, who's the director of the Instituto Universitario para el Desarrollo de las Comunidades. This is a very significant and prominent service learning and participatory action research program at our campus. And how it works basically is students every semester can come to an opening seminar and they can decide to join a community project. And they're trained in that opening seminar many things such as ethics, respecting community, teamwork, and they're taught that they will be doing a lectura de la calle, which is another way to say that their principal source of learning will be the community itself. They should go in with an open mind, not to presume that they have a lot of the answers. They have to go in with a very open mind to do that. And I think it's a very excellent program, so I want to acknowledge Luisa, if you want to say